want to talk about, whoops.
Sorry, go ahead.
So when these women found themselves feeling better, really their lives change and the people around their lives change. So that's why I'm so passionate about self-care, because it's not about just feeling better. It's about how everyone around you, there's this ripple effect. And so I love working with women in their 40s and 50s. I'm 59 now, so I'm kind of, on the other side of it. And I just know what's possible for women who maybe think that, they're just getting old.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I apologize for the interruption there. I had hit the recording and it said got it, but it didn't never started. So I had just started the recording. So I apologize for that. But and we will have the recording up. So when you're talking about perimenopausal and the symptoms, what are symptoms? You didn't experience them, but what are normally the symptoms people may experience?
Yeah. So a lot of women don't know that the symptoms are part of perimenopause. And, it hasn't been talked about. I think that, one of the reasons why I do it, I talk about it, people should know about it. It's just like we go through puberty, we go through perimenopause and menopause, and it's going to post menopause is going to be, almost half our lives for some of us. So we want to know how to take care of ourselves. So the very first symptoms can start to be sort of like more fatigue and trouble sleeping. So a lot of people don't take that into account. They just think that something else is going on. And when sleep disruption happens, everything is affected, whether it's, clarity and brain fog, or whether more irritability. So all those things are tied in. And then everyone's heard about hot flashes and night sweats. So a lot of women don't realize they're in perimenopause until till they start getting a hot flash. And then they're like, oh, that must be it. So one of the things that I start to educate women is that changes can start to happen usually in the early 40s, but for some women, even in their late 30s.
Wow. And that's why I asked, because I'm past that point too. But I was like, I don't feel like I ever had them either. But like you said, most of us wouldn't even know, that we did have them. We'll chalk it up to something else, whether,
Exactly.
environment or bad days or whatever. So, and it's one of those kind of, I don't know, to me, almost like a double-edged sword, because it's not like you want to be a hypochondriac and say, oh, this is what I have, when you're talking about maybe other possible symptoms. But it's just kind of, it's funny when it feels like it could be something normal symptom, but it could be the perimenopause. I mean, how do you kind of differentiate? I mean, how do you even differentiate that or kind of figure out what it is?
Well, it's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And that's why, what I say is it's not just about your hormones, because how you feel in your body is due to everything that you're doing every day. So I like to say every choice that you make is either moving you towards a healthier life or away from one. And for a lot of women, they haven't prioritized themselves. So when a woman comes to me and she's like, well, I'm tired and not as clear and foggy, whether they're whether they're in their early 40s or their late 40s, I'm going to look at it the same way, because through self-care changes, everything can change. And then those like mix of symptoms, they just all start to vanish. And I have a great story, which is that a woman who came to me and she was, having hot flashes and sleep disruptions. But once we started working together, her acid reflux completely resolved, and she'd had it for years. So everything is connected. It's not like you can treat one symptom with one supplement and another symptom with something else. The body is very wise. The body is brilliant. The way that, everything is working. And if you're having symptoms, something is not working. And perimenopause is not a disease. Menopause is not a disease. It's a transition in our life.
That's a good point. We're talking about that before when we had met. It's like we get so used to just treating a symptom, which is like throwing a band-aid on something, but we need to go into more and treating the body as a whole. So, but why are the perimenopausal symptoms not inevitable? And although they may be common, not normal?
Yeah, so I love this question, and this is something that I learned. So perimenopause and menopausal symptoms are much more common in Western countries. So there are parts of Asia, and particularly Japan, where they don't even have a word for hot flash. It like
Oh,
doesn't exist. So we know that this is a cultural issue, very, very much so. And I believe that some of it is about our feelings about aging and what that means for us. And if there's a lot of negativity around that, our body's going to pick up on that. So once we are very clear about our life and our goals and how we want to live and love our families, we can overcome that and just feel like that so much is ahead. If you're privileged enough to be alive, to be going through menopause, a lot of women don't have that privilege. So, mixing that up. And also it's not inevitable because so many of the symptoms are due to self-care. And, it's a kind of um, it includes a lot of things, but the first thing that we look at is how you're responding to stress, and then nutrition and movement. And all that goes within the bubble of sleep, because we've got to talk about sleep within that. And it's just not how many hours you sleep. I just want to add that in.
yeah. And I would have to say mindset, because like you just said, it was you call it a privilege. Most people would not look at that that I know of would not look at that as a privilege. So even there, that's a mindset change. And like you said, being more positive and not negative.
Exactly.
So,
And
but yeah. So why do you think that in our culture that the beliefs, the women's beliefs about aging and appearance impact their symptoms?
yeah, so like I said, when everything is about youth and anti-aging and things we have to add and use, and I'm not against any of those, but it's about being healthy. It's not just about how we look. Like you can look like you're 40, 35 years old, but if your body's not moving well, if you're not feeling happy, if you're not feeling clear, it doesn't matter. And when you do develop the tools to take care of yourself, everything starts to change. And that becomes an empowering place to be when you know you have the tools to live a healthy life and actually to be an example for other people in your lives. It's very inspiring. I live in a place where there are people in their 80s that are walking fast and bicycling, and and playing tennis. It's so inspiring to me.
I've seen ones that are, still hiking and, go up for hikes and mountains and it's like, yep, still living life
Exactly.
and love it. So yeah. No, and I get what you mean because you kind of can't watch TV or hear things nowadays without some kind of skincare or regimen or some kind of throwing at you that, you should do this to, look better or have better skin. So we constantly kind of get bombarded with that, which I guess kind of can play a role if if you kind of buy into all of that. But
Yeah, for sure. And I want to add, again, this word Ayurveda, I just say it means science of life. One of my teachers said it's like how to live in your body, right? And so we're really looking at the skin from the inside out. It's not only what we put on our skin, it's everything that we're eating and how we're sleeping. And, if you've ever come back from a vacation and maybe had a little glow on you, but you've been taking care of yourself, you've been sleeping, and that comes from the inside out. And I do want to add that Ayurveda does have amazing products for the skin that have herbs and things like that, and those have been used for thousands of years.
right. Yeah. And that's like I said, yeah, vacations, anything. That's why I always tell people about self-care. And it's like even vacations, people don't understand how much that little bit of getting away can just reset everything, clear your mind. There's a lot of advantages to it, which is why I love self-care anyway. But that's really good. So how do you work with women normally? Do you one-on-one coaching? Do you ever do workshops, retreats? What do you do?
Yeah, so right now I have programs that I work with women. It's generally a combination of group and one-on-one coaching. And I call it Vibrant through perimenopause and menopause. And we're really looking at every layer of how we're living in our body. And we we use all the tools. I teach all of the tools. And the great thing about a group is that women learn from one another. And for a lot of women, their symptoms, they come to a place where they're kind of, it becomes like a complaining fest about hot flashes or whatever. And this becomes a place where women are empowered to know that they'll have the tools, and they help each other and they learn from each other. So that's why I do the group, and everything's online right now.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you're not doing retreats right now. Right now, you're just doing everything then online and you have groups organized for it. But that's wonderful though to have that space because I didn't even know there was even people, out there that even specialized in that until I had met you. So I thought it was definitely an interesting topic and one that we needed to bring to other people because who knows who else has questions or struggles or I occasionally have the little hot flashes, but now that you mentioned that, yeah, it kind of depends on how the day goes. If you had a really smooth day, it's like, yeah, that stuff kind of just washes away.
Exactly, exactly. And, heat in the body builds from a lot of things. One of the things it builds from is anger or irritation. And that's when, more heat is going to come out. And of course, how we're responding to stress and what we eat and how we move.
Wow. Yeah. So what is the best way for people to contact you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I invite everyone to have a 15-minute conversation with me, just so I can, you'll fill out a form beforehand, just so I can see what's going on, and sort of a perimenopausal evaluation kind of thing, and then we can go from there. So best thing is just to email me, Marjorie@marjorienass.com. If you're on Facebook and you would like to join my group, it's Vibrant Through Menopause, and I'd welcome you there in the group as well.
Wonderful. And I'll make sure I have your links. We'll put all those up in the comments and stuff. So that way everyone knows how to get a hold of you. But I think that's wonderful that you do all that. And it's great that you treat everything as a whole. You have the whole self-care in there. And so it's a very unique approach.
Well, thank you. Well, for a lot of women, they don't know any other approach other than hormones, which there is nothing wrong with that. But if a woman wants to try something else first, like see how you can get your body in balance, which also helps every other part of your life.
Yeah. I always say it's good to have different resources, different options, and figure out what works for you because we're all different. So everything's going to work differently for people.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you, Marjorie. I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with everybody. And anyone that wants to either see this again can either look in the group or make sure you go to the White Sand Self Care YouTube channel. So you will find this interview and others. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Laura.